Actually, I told my wife's parents that my mother died of illness. John said to me with a grin. I was stunned and couldn't understand what John was saying. Today was John's wedding, and I was about to greet his fiancée's parents before the ceremony began. Since there had been no meeting between the families, I hadn't had the chance to greet them until today. John stopped me to say something unexpected, leaving me confused and unable to grasp the situation. What are you talking about? Am I supposed to be dead? John answered triumphantly. Yes. My wife's family is wealthy, and they don't think someone poor like you should meet them. I didn't want you involved, so I pretended you were dead. Then why did you invite me to the wedding? If they wanted me to be dead, it would be inconvenient for John if I were here. John burst out laughing. Maybe it's to annoy you. I wanted to make you suffer. Of course, you're not allowed to attend the ceremony. Oh, this is hilarious. His mocking laughter was just like that of my ex-husband. Feeling a chill through my body, I suddenly became calm and looked at John with cold eyes. Unaware of my reaction, he continued to laugh and said, "This way, I can finally cut ties with the old hag I hate. Just disappear." At John's declaration of disownment, I couldn't help but smile. I've been waiting for you to say that. What? John was dumbfounded. I firmly told him. Just as you said, let's cut ties. Well, I'm leaving now. My name is Talon, and I'm 52 years old. I had a husband whom I married after a workplace romance. His name was Ryan. We worked in different departments, but Ryan was a celebrity within the company, so I knew of him from the start. That was because Ryan had a handsome face and a friendly demeanor, making him very popular among women. I, too, was secretly interested in Ryan. One day, there was a joint drinking party with Ryan's department, and we quickly grew closer. Ryan and I hit it off right away because we happened to be from the same place. I vividly remember feeling over the moon when Ryan confessed to me soon after, an unexpected twist in my life. Of course, I accepted, and that's how our relationship started. Things with Ryan were going smoothly. He was always calm, and we got along so well that we never had a single fight. Then, on a day exactly 1 year after we started dating, Ryan took me to a restaurant known for its beautiful night view. As our meal was coming to an end, Ryan, looking nervous, began to speak. Talon, I'm truly happy to have met you. Would you marry me? I think we would make a great couple, he said, opening a box with a ring inside, proposing in a scene straight out of a drama. I accepted with tears of joy, and he slid the engagement ring onto my left ring finger. Soon after, we got married and had a grand wedding ceremony, blessed by many people. At that time, I felt like the happiest person in the world. I had no doubt that Ryan and I would lead a happy life together. However, my hopes were soon shattered. Right after we got married, Ryan began staying away from home, citing overtime work and social engagements. Moreover, Ryan, who had been so kind, suddenly became cold towards me. Hey, Ryan. Can you come home early today? Let's have dinner together for once. I'm thinking of making your favorite. Stop nagging. Just eat by yourself. I'm gonna be late again tonight. All right, I'm off to work. He replied before slamming the door, leaving me standing alone in the entrance. I was bewildered by Ryan's sudden change and couldn't catch up with what was happening. Since Ryan wanted me to, I had quit my job to become a full-time housewife at the same time we got married, so I spent my days alone at home, endlessly doing household chores. I was genuinely happy when I found out I was pregnant during those lonely days. I naively hoped that Ryan would start coming home earlier once our child was born. Time passed, and 3 days past my due date, I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. We named him John, and Ryan, holding our newborn like a treasure, teared up. Seeing Ryan like that, I thought our family of 3 would live happily together. But Ryan soon started staying away from home again. Moreover, he hardly contributed financially to the household. Suspicious of Ryan's behavior, I decided to take a bold step and follow him. After leaving John with my parents, I trailed Ryan after work to an apartment where he stopped in front of a door. When he rang the bell, a beautiful woman came out. They smiled at each other and went inside together. Ryan was having an affair. Despite the dizziness from the harsh reality in front of me, I felt a strange sense of relief. My actions following this revelation were swift. I used my savings from before I was married to hire a private investigator and conduct a background check on Ryan. Soon enough, evidence of Ryan's affair with the woman, she turned out to be his college classmate named Sadie, was compiled. When I confronted Ryan, he had the audacity to admit it openly. Yeah, that's right. I've been with Sadie for years, long before you and I got married. But, you see, Sadie's expensive to maintain and terrible at household chores, making her unsuitable as a wife. You, on the other hand, are plain and domestic, perfect as a housekeeper for me. That's why I married you. Plus, my parents were nagging me to settle down. Ryan never loved me. I was chosen simply because I was low maintenance and fit the role of a housekeeper. Hearing such demeaning words from Ryan, my world went dark. Who else would marry someone ugly like you? Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror? A woman of your level getting to marry me, there had to be a catch. He said, laughing disdainfully. Was he always this vile? Is Sadie the reason you stopped contributing financially at home? I managed to ask. Yeah, exactly. Sadie's all about the latest trends and loves fashion, so she's always asking me for bags, cosmetics, you name it. Sure, she's beautiful, but it costs a fortune. So, I end up buying them for her. Ryan said, his face disgustingly smug. I want a divorce. Ryan snorted in disdain. Fine, do whatever you want. I never really cared about you anyway. Marrying you was a mistake. It was all meaningless. What a waste of time. Ryan, until the very end, never uttered a word of apology to me and kept hurling insults. Afterward, I demanded alimony and child support from Ryan in our divorce. However, Ryan, who always disliked saving money, seemed to be broke soon after, and payments began to lag. He apparently quit his job and went off the grid, making it impossible to sue him. I resolved to raise John well, despite everything, and decided to forget about Ryan. When John turned 1, I managed to find a job and started working again after placing him in daycare. From then on, I struggled to raise John by myself. Balancing work, household chores, and parenting alone was tough, but I did my best not to let John feel disadvantaged because he had only one parent. Up until his graduation from elementary school, John was a kind and considerate boy. He was a bit mischievous but mostly stayed out of trouble with friends, and we led a modest yet peaceful life together. However, things changed when John started middle school. He began to hurl insults at me. You useless hag! It's your fault I have to live this poor life. My life is ruined because of you, you damn hag! John would scream, trashing the room, all directed at me unilaterally. John, calm down! Let's talk this through. I would try to soothe him, but he wouldn't listen, and instead, he'd hit me while yelling, "Shut up." Being struck by John, who was now almost as big as an adult man, I'd collapse, groaning in pain. Looking down at me, John muttered with utter disgust. You're sickening, hag. And with that, he'd retreat to his room. This scenario played out repeatedly. I never gave up trying to connect with John, but he firmly refused to open up to me. Verbal abuse and violence became the norm, and he often threw the food I made right into the trash in front of me. Seeing me stunned, John would laugh crazily, his expression eerily resembling his father's when confronted about his affair. Exhausted by John's behavior, living together became painful for me. And gradually, my love for him faded. Still, I felt obligated to take care of him until he became an adult, so I scrimped and saved desperately for his college expenses. John, having successfully gotten into his desired university, started living on his own upon entering college. Mom, you're gonna be lonely without me, huh? Now you can live alone and lonely. Oh, and don't you dare forget to send me money every month. If you're even a day late, I won't let it slide. John seemed to think I would be lonely once he left home, but that couldn't be further from the truth. I was genuinely relieved when he moved out. After all the verbal and physical abuse he hurled at me, I was honestly surprised he still thought he was loved by me. He took the unconditional love of a parent for granted. It is far from the truth. Even parents, being human with hearts, can see their love fade away after enduring too much hardship from their child. Since John left for college during the spring break before his freshman year, I've been living peaceful days. I never missed a month's remittance, though John never once sent a word of thanks. But that was fine by me. I preferred as little contact with John as possible. Years passed, and John graduated from college and got a job at a certain company. One day, 3 years into his job, John came back home for the first time in years. "Hey, Mom, long time no see. You been okay?" John, whom I hadn't seen in years, greeted me with a gentle smile. "Yes, I've been fine. Have you been well, John?" I asked, feeling a bit perplexed. It had been a long time since he called me Mom instead of old lady. "Yeah, I've been working hard. It's a sales job, so there's a lot of tough stuff, but I'm hanging in there. Man, I never knew working could be this hard," he said with a laugh, seeming like the kind John the first used to know. After catching up for a bit, John said, "So, Mom, I want to apologize. I was really harsh to you during my student years, wasn't I? But, I was going through puberty, had a bit of a rebellious phase, so I guess it couldn't be helped." Those words of verbal abuse and violence couldn't just be brushed off as puberty or a rebellious phase. However, I chose not to interrupt and listened silently to what John had to say. "I really regret it now. I'm sorry, Mom. Really sorry. I know no amount of apologies can make up for it, but I truly am sorry." John seemed sincerely apologizing. "Are you really sorry?" It was the first time I'd heard words of apology from John, so I was taken aback. "Yeah, I really am sorry. Now that I'm 25, I've become an adult and finally understand how terrible the things I did as a child were. I'm sorry." Seeing John repeatedly apologizing, I softly told him, "It's okay." I thought that if John truly regretted his actions, I could forgive him. I may not have any affection left for John, but I decided to accept his apology. "Thanks, Mom," John said, his face lighting up with a broad smile. "Actually, I've got another big piece of news." "Big news?" I tilted my head, wondering what it could be. "I'm getting married." "What, really?" I was taken aback, not having expected John to get married. But then again, John was already 25 years old. It wasn't strange for him to decide to get married at his age. I met her through work, her name's Sarah. "She's super cute and a really great person," John said, beaming with happiness. "That's wonderful. Congratulations." When I congratulated him, I thought John's smile was secretly distorted. However, I thought I saw John's smile twist in a sly, unpleasant way, which gave me an uneasy feeling. And my premonition turned out to be spot on. "So, Mom, I have a favor to ask." "What favor?" Although I felt uneasy inside, I asked calmly. "Could you give me a wedding gift? All my past actions, I apologized for them, and we're square, right? You're my only parent, after all. You could at least give me some celebration money, right? Come on, Mom, even if we lived a poor life, you must have some savings, right? Please?" As I listened to John's words, I felt a chill go through my heart. So, this was his intention all along. His apology for past actions was merely a setup to extort money from me. He wasn't truly remorseful. Gazing at John with hopeful eyes, I sighed deeply inside. I could have just sent him away without a second thought, but not giving anything for his wedding felt wrong. So, I decided to give him a passbook containing a few $1,000s out of the last bit of compassion I had. "It's not much, but please take this envelope." John, receiving it from me, was overly joyful. "Yay! Thanks, Mom." Well, I've got what I came for, so I'll be going now. Oh, I'll let you know about the wedding," he said, hurriedly leaving the house. A few days later, John called to inform me of the wedding date and venue. "Make sure you're not late." "Bye." "Wait a minute. I got the time and place of the wedding, but what about a meeting between both families? I haven't even met your fiancée, Sarah, yet," I asked, thinking it's normal to have a meeting between families before the wedding, but John just laughed. "Oh right, meeting between the families. Nah, her parents are busy, so it doesn't look like we'll be able to do it. We'll meet on the wedding day, so it's all good, right?" I felt uneasy about John's attitude, but convinced myself it was understandable if they were busy. "So, what about Sarah?" "Sarah is busy too, you know, with all the wedding prep. What's it called, bridal beauty treatments? She's going to those. So, meeting her on the wedding day is fine." "Okay. If Sarah and her parents are fine with that, then I don't mind." Thus, I was going to meet John's fiancée and her parents for the first time on their wedding day. Arriving at the venue, I was about to greet John's in-laws before the ceremony when he called out from behind. "Hey, Mom! Where do you think you're going?" I turned around to see John. "I was going to greet your fiancée's parents. Since we haven't had a family meeting yet, I haven't had the chance to greet them." John coldly retorted. "There's no need for that. Why are you trying to greet them on your own? But, greeting them is just polite." When I replied in confusion, John smiled wickedly, as if he were a student. "My wife's parents aren't the kind of people a poor person like you should be greeting. Her family is wealthy. They're from a completely different world than you." Saying this, John looked towards the entrance of the venue and waved at someone. "Hey! Dad! Over here, over here!" At John's call, I reflexively looked toward the entrance, where the last person I wanted to see was walking towards us. "John, congratulations on your wedding," he said with a smug grin. That person was Ryan, my ex-husband. Why? I was at a loss for words. I had no idea until this moment that John and Ryan were in touch, leaving me dumbfounded. Seeing me, Ryan sneered. "Long time no see, Talon. You're as plain and ugly as ever. You've aged, and the wrinkles and age spots make you look like a complete old hag. But I guess you're still somewhat younger looking than I expected. I thought you'd look more miserable. You haven't changed at all, have you?" I was referring to his personality, not his appearance, but Ryan seemed pleased and smiled happily. "Of course. I make an effort to stay young. Still a handsome guy, right? Still irresistibly attractive to women." "I see." Disgusted, that was all I could manage to say. "Thanks for coming today, Dad." John smiled at Ryan, and Ryan returned the smile with a wide grin. Ignoring me, they seemed to be getting along well in their conversation. After a pause, John turned to me and declared, "From now on, Dad is my only parent. Actually, my bride's parents think my mother died of illness." "What are you talking about? Then why did you invite me today?" I asked, and John burst out laughing. "Just to annoy you. I wanted to make you suffer. Of course, you're not attending the ceremony." "Oh, this is fun." Ryan joined in John's laughter. Their mocking laughter was just alike. Now I can finally cut ties with the old hag I hate. Just disappear. At John's declaration of disownment, I couldn't help but smile. "I've been waiting for you to say that." "Huh?" John looked dumbfounded. "Just as you said, let's disown each other." "Then, I'm leaving." I turned and walked away. And so, while secretly mocking John, who knew nothing, I left the venue. 3 months later. Since I had the day off from work today, I spent the rest of the morning leisurely making coffee. Then, the doorbell rang, and when I answered it, there stood John. He wore ragged clothes, unshaven, and with a vacant look in his eyes. He looked 180 degrees different from the John the first saw on the wedding day, and even I was taken aback. Can a person's appearance change this much in such a short time? Mom, help me, at least let me inside. I can't let you inside. We'll talk here, so speak concisely. I stand firm with John as he calls out for help in a weak voice. John began to speak with a vacant look in his eyes. Actually, Dad suddenly told me he had a huge debt and asked if I could help him out. I was shocked but asked Sarah since she's wealthy, thinking she'd happily pay off her husband's father's debt. But Sarah refused and, on top of that, said she didn't think I was such a person and called off the engagement. It seems John was begged by Ryan to help with his debt repayment, and when he asked his wealthy bride, she decisively refused and even broke off the engagement.
I had no idea Dad had debts. I never heard anything like that.
John told me this, crying, and I quietly asked, "When did you start meeting your dad?" "Since middle school." I was approached by Dad on my way back from school. Ryan had apparently ambushed middle schooler John. Since I divorced Ryan when John was a baby, John wouldn't remember Ryan's face. However, Ryan convinced him by showing an old photo. It was a family photo taken right after John was born. I was surprised Ryan had such a photo, probably keeping it for some eventual use. I can assert that he never held on to that photo out of affection. Then, Dad kept bad-mouthing you to me, and I believed it all. What kind of bad things did he say? I pretty much guessed, but I asked anyway. He said things like, "You're poor because you're with your mom, how pitiful." And so on. John was fed by Ryan that he was poor because of me, that he could have a better life living with him, and that he had wanted to take custody but I forcibly took it away. Was this why John started abusing me verbally and physically since middle school? Dad claimed he was wealthy. He always wore expensive-looking suits, so I totally believed everything he said. But now that I think about it, maybe those suits were rented. I find it hard to believe that a man who didn't pay alimony or child support, had no savings, quit his job, and vanished would become wealthy. He approached you out of desperation, buried in debt. At my words, John looked downcast. So, everything Dad said was a lie. He kept telling me to marry a wealthy woman, so he was planning to use me all along. Oh no, so why did you come here? This has nothing to do with me. As I asked with a sigh, John began to scream. Don't say that. Actually, Sarah was related to a key client of the company I worked for. Trying to marry her while hiding the fact that my real father had a huge debt and then getting dumped because I asked for money got spread all over the company, and now I'm about to get fired. Dad keeps begging me for money, and I'm going insane. Mom, help me. Even as John begged me, crying and sniffling, I felt no pity for him. There's nothing I can do for you. We're already disowned, remember? But I apologize. During the wedding, I was deceived by Dad, so I mistakenly said we should disown each other, but that wasn't really how I felt. John was desperately making excuses, but I looked at him coldly. It's not just about the wedding. I raised you all by myself since you were a baby. To make sure you didn't go hungry, I worked full-time jobs and did piecework at home, and I worked hard on household chores and cooking too. Yet, you only appreciated me until elementary school, and after that, you kept abusing me verbally and physically.
But that was because Dad lied to me. I already apologized for that, didn't I?
He did apologize, but that was merely to extract a wedding gift from me, not a sincere apology. I sighed deeply.
You've never sincerely apologized to me for anything. And no matter what lies you were fed, it doesn't justify your verbal abuse and violence towards me.
Furthermore, I tried to communicate with John many times, but he never really responded.
I don't have even a shred of affection left for you. Even seeing you in this battered state, I feel no urge to help. Please leave.
When I firmly told him this, John's face turned bright red with anger, and he started yelling.
Don't mess with me. You're my mother, aren't you? A mother is supposed to help her child. You're heartless. I have no son. Please don't raise your voice here. Just go home. You old hag.
Enraged, John raised his right arm to strike me. I instinctively shrank back, bracing for the pain that was sure to come. But nothing happened. When I cautiously looked at John, he was moaning it hurts, while cradling his right shoulder, possibly injured. For a moment, I wondered about his shoulder, but then I quickly closed and locked the front door. From the other side of the door, John shouted, "Hey! We're not done talking.
If you do anything more, I'll call the police. Just go away."
Hearing the word police, John cursed and left. A month later, John called me. I didn't pick up, but he left a voicemail, so I played it back. In a listless voice, John said, "Mom, listen. Dad won't let me go. He's always asking for money, and when I refuse, he gets violent. He's taking most of my salary." When John appeared a month ago, showing signs of a shoulder injury, was it because Ryan had been violent towards him? Even so, I couldn't find it in me to sympathize with John. Violence was something John had frequently inflicted on me. Ryan, being taller and more physically trained from his judo days. He was probably more than John could handle. Dad seems to have a gambling addiction, spending the money I give him before it can go towards his debts. The debts never decrease. He won't quit it, even though I've asked. I barely avoided getting fired, but I was demoted to a window seat, so my salary is low, and with Dad taking most of it, I can hardly save anything. I might be reaching my limit. John was sobbing, and it was clear he was desperate. "Mom, please, lend me some money. Help me out. I'm begging you, it's a once-in-a-lifetime request." That's where the voicemail ended. After listening to the message, I immediately set John's number to reject all calls. There was no way I was going to lend him any money, and I wanted nothing to do with John ever again. Months later, a coworker from John's company came to visit me and told me what had happened to John. John had secretly recorded Ryan's verbal abuse and violence, and after submitting it to the police, Ryan was arrested for assault. He would be spending some time behind bars. However, John's mental health had deteriorated and he had collapsed, leading to his admission to a psychiatric ward. In fact, I had seen John about a week before. Driving past the company John worked for, I spotted a man in a ragged suit, noticeably thinner. I didn't recognize him at first, but it was undoubtedly John. Even from a distance, it was clear he was living a miserable life, but now he had been admitted to a hospital. Yet, I thought he brought it on to himself. I hoped he would reflect on his actions while recovering in the hospital. Though, knowing John, reflection might be too much to expect. Either way, it was no longer my concern. John's coworker mentioned that John had asked him to visit me if anything happened. Presumably, John wanted me to look after him and handle his finances while he was hospitalized, but that was out of the question. I thanked John's coworker politely and sent him on his way. Of course, there was no way I would ever visit John. Not long after, I moved and started a new life in a new town. Finally free from the years of suffering caused by John and Ryan, I got involved in gardening and joined an outdoor club. I'm living a more vibrant life and enjoying my existence more than before.